As the sun rose over the sprawling city of Abidjan on May 23, 2025, an eerie silence gripped the economic capital of Côte d'Ivoire. It was not the calm of a peaceful morning, but the tense stillness before an unforeseen storm. Residents woke up to an unsettling sight. Armored vehicles quietly rolling through major boulevards, heavily armed soldiers securing key intersections, and military trucks stationed near government institutions. The typical rhythm of daily life, from bustling markets to crowded bus stops, was abruptly interrupted by a sense of dread hanging over the city like a fog. Like this video and subscribe to this channel if it's your first time here. Before the day even fully broke, social media platforms were set ablaze with speculation. Grainy footage surfaced showing soldiers near the presidential palace. State media channels suddenly went off air, and audio recordings allegedly containing military commands began to circulate. Some posts claimed the president had fled the country. Others alleged he was under arrest. As the rumors multiplied, the hashtag number COPCI quickly began trending, not just in Côte d'Ivoire but across the continent, from Dakar to Johannesburg. The nation and the region held its breath. What made the situation even more perplexing was the deafening silence from official sources. The Ivorian government issued no immediate statements. The Ministry of Defense offered no clarity. The national broadcaster was conspicuously quiet. Hours later, President Alassane Ouattara appeared on television, seated at the head of a long cabinet table, flanked by his ministers and top military officials. He spoke calmly, insisting that all was under control and that the military maneuvers had been taken out of context by malicious actors seeking to destabilize the nation. He described the rumors as dangerous misinformation and urged Ivorians to remain calm, but many were not reassured. The president's appearance seemed orchestrated, almost too polished. The choice of setting, the presidential palace with its majestic drapery and imperial lighting, gave the impression of strength but also of control being desperately maintained. No journalists were allowed to ask questions. No military commander gave a separate briefing. No raw footage of the day's events was shown. It was the image of power, not a demonstration of it. And in a country that has lived through coups, mutinies, and civil war, Ivorians know the difference. For many, the government's vague and rapid attempt at damage control raised more questions than it answered. If there was no coup attempt, why the sudden deployment of military units in civilian neighborhoods? Why the blackout of communication lines around key installations? Why the panic among diplomatic missions, some of which instructed their staff to shelter in place? To understand how this day of confusion could ignite such profound national anxiety, one must remember the road that led here. Alassane Ouattara, once seen as the economic savior of Côte d'Ivoire, has long been a controversial figure. His rise to power was paved with both international support and domestic resistance. After the 2010 election, when incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo refused to concede defeat, a brief but brutal conflict broke out. Backed by French military intervention and the UN, Ouattara was installed as president, but the manner in which power changed hands left a lasting scar. Over the next decade, Ouattara pursued aggressive economic reforms, boasting impressive GDP growth and infrastructural development. He attracted foreign investors and rebranded Côte d'Ivoire as a beacon of post-conflict recovery. But the political landscape remained fragile. Ethnic tensions persisted. Regions that had supported Gbagbo felt marginalized. And the military, cobbled together from former rebels, loyalists, and regional factions, remained divided and occasionally mutinous. The real turning point, however, came in 2020. After serving 2 terms, the constitutional limit, Ouattara announced he would not run again. He designated Prime Minister Amadou Gon Coulibaly as his successor. But Coulibaly died suddenly, just months before the election. Ouattara reversed his decision, citing force majeure, and declared his candidacy for a 3rd term. Critics accused him of manipulating the Constitution, which had been revised in 2016 to reset the term limits. Opposition parties boycotted the election, violence erupted, and more than 85 people were killed. The election was effectively uncontested. Ouattara claimed victory. For many Ivorians, that election shattered any illusion of democratic renewal. What had once been seen as a transitional leader had now become a symbol of entrenchment. The growing authoritarian streak, the stifling of dissent, the marginalization of opposition figures, all pointed to a regime increasingly disconnected from the people it claimed to represent. Against this backdrop, the events of May 23rd carry enormous weight. The country is still reeling from the democratic backslide of 2020. The opposition is fragmented but still popular among key demographics. Youth unemployment is high, the cost of living has soared, and crucially, the region around Côte d'Ivoire is undergoing a political metamorphosis. To the north lies Burkina Faso, where Captain Ibrahim Traoré seized power through a military coup in 2022. Traoré has emerged as a fiery voice of anti-imperialism. He has expelled French forces, embraced Russian military assistance, and spoken openly about the need for West African unity against neocolonial exploitation. His rhetoric has electrified a generation of Africans who feel betrayed by post-independence elites and international institutions alike. Traoré's influence has not gone unnoticed in Côte d'Ivoire. His speeches are shared widely on social media. His anti-French stance resonates with Ivorians who remember the colonial past and resent ongoing foreign military presence. Earlier this year, Traoré accused elements within Côte d'Ivoire of harboring coup plotters aiming to destabilize Burkina Faso. Though the Ivorian government denied any involvement, the accusation deepened mistrust between the two countries. Many believe that the Ouattara administration views Traoré's rise not just as a regional threat, but as an ideological one. Could it be that the military exercises on May 23rd were a preemptive response to perceived infiltration or subversion? Were there credible threats of a cross-border coup plot? Or did the government use the alleged threat to carry out internal purges, silencing dissent within its own ranks? Complicating matters further is the specter of foreign involvement. Over the past 2 years, Russia has intensified its engagement in West Africa, particularly through the Wagner Group, a paramilitary entity with ties to the Kremlin. In Mali, Wagner has filled the vacuum left by departing French forces. In Burkina Faso and the Central African Republic, they provide security to regimes in exchange for mining concessions and political loyalty. Though there is no confirmed Wagner presence in Côte d'Ivoire, their expanding influence raises suspicions. In the cloak and dagger world of regional politics, the line between security cooperation and regime change is thin. Some analysts speculate that pro-Russian sentiment may have found sympathizers within the Ivorian military. If so, a mutiny or coup attempt, whether successful or not, could have been quietly squashed by loyalist forces. Others suggest that the government itself may have staged the appearance of instability to justify future crackdowns, increase surveillance powers, or reset the political narrative before the 2025 elections. Meanwhile, the ordinary citizens of Côte d'Ivoire find themselves caught in a whirlwind of fear and confusion. In Abobo, Bouaké, and San Pedro, people stayed indoors, glued to their radios and phones. Banks shut down. Schools remained closed. Supermarkets witnessed panic buying. Some neighborhoods went dark, not from electrical failure, but from deliberate silence. Neighbors whispering rumors rather than shouting them. The emotional trauma of past crises resurfaced with startling immediacy. For many, it felt like the early days of civil war all over again. International observers and foreign embassies treaded cautiously. The African Union issued a generic statement urging calm. ECOWAS's officials privately expressed concern but offered no substantive comment. The United Nations maintained radio silence. It was as though the world, too, was uncertain whether what it had witnessed was real or rehearsed. And that is perhaps the most dangerous part of this story. Not the possibility of a coup, but the certainty of opacity. The lack of transparency has created a vacuum filled by fear, misinformation, and political manipulation. Whether this was a genuine power struggle or a strategic maneuver, the result is the same. Ivorians feel more insecure, more divided, and less certain of their future. As dusk fell on May 23rd, armored vehicles gradually withdrew, and the usual sounds of life tentatively returned to the streets. But nothing felt normal. The day had left behind invisible cracks in the foundation of national confidence, and those cracks could widen if left unaddressed. The question now is not merely what happened, but what will happen next. Will President Ouattara use this moment to consolidate power further, emboldened by having weathered a political storm? Or will he reach out to opposition leaders, civil society, and the youth to chart a more inclusive path forward? The stakes are nothing less than the soul of a nation. Côte d'Ivoire stands once again at a dangerous crossroads, where the path toward democracy is shadowed by the specter of authoritarianism, foreign interference, and military ambition. In a region where coups are becoming the norm rather than the exception, Ivorians in the world must decide whether to surrender to the patterns of the past or dare to forge a new future.